Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Real Talk with Ben podcast. And I'm so excited that you decided to join me today. Whether you're at home, whether you're just hanging out with your family, whether you're with friends, I hope you're having a great day. And I hope you get some encouragement from today, because I think today's episode is one of those episodes that I hope you get some encouragement from. Maybe you weren't expecting to, but I hope you do. So once again, thank you so much for joining me. And if you're new, my name is Ben, and this is my podcast where I talk about life, I talk about ministry, and I really talk about anything that I feel is on my heart, or I think that other people might want to hear about. And so I'm so glad you decided to join me today, and I hope you continue to join me in the future. So once again, thank you so much. And yes, for all of you out there, if you're watching, you wouldn't know if you're listening, but if you're watching, I'm wearing a pink shirt. And yes, it's manly. No, anyways, I just had the pink shirt and I wore it and everyone was commenting today. And so I thought about, should I change? Nope. I'm just going to keep it the way it is. So you get to deal with a pink shirt. If you don't like pink shirts, I'm sorry. But anyways, back to the actual show. First off, I want to say thank you so much for the support I got on my short film that I released on Saturday. It actually wasn't going to be a short film, especially if you listen to the beginning of that video on YouTube. It was like, I was basically talking about how, I basically was like, well, I decided to do this video on my 100 days, and it meant it was going to be just a talking head video. And then I really felt, just like, okay, maybe I should make this into a little short film. So I hope you enjoyed it. Doing the short film has always been a dream of mine, and to be able to finally do one was really, really cool. So I thank you all for the support, the comments I got. Some people were saying, my mom especially was like, that's your best video yet. And yes, that's not how my mom talks, but that's my mom voice. Anyways, so I really appreciate all that support. It was really fun to do. I actually really enjoyed it. So yeah, we'll probably do more of those in the future, hopefully. Anyways, with that being said, I wanted to move into today's topic, and today's topic is kind of interesting. Obviously on Thursday, I talked about what was next for the Bowden experience, what my goal was with the Bowden experience. And, I talked about how possibly we go into one episode for the podcast a week. And I'm still debating on that. I mean, I think if it does happen, it will happen more during camp weeks, because camp weeks are going to be chaos. Like it's already starting to get busy. But anyways, I wanted to talk about something that I think I get a lot of questions about. Not even questions. I think sometimes I get into conversations, especially when I was back in the States. And as I was talking about doing this, and, I get the questions a lot, like, well, how can I be involved in missions? Or, I don't really know if I should go somewhere. And, I always tell people that not everyone is called to go do missions overseas, in another country. You can do it where you are. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. It's the idea of being mission minded, where God has you. And for some, it might be for just a brief time and he'll send you overseas. Or for others, maybe he's always going to have you just where you live and in your job. And so I wanted to take some time. It's kind of split into three different aspects, at least that what I thought of. And in a couple of the aspects, there's multiple points. So for me, it's kind of three ways. And I'm just going to go ahead and name them, and then I'll go through them individually. But the three ways are focus on what is needed in the now. And number two I thought of was prepare the soil for whoever comes next. And that's an interesting one that we'll get to in a little bit. And the final one is be willing to go or to stay. And there's no real order to them. I've tried to put them in the best order that I thought they would fit, but I mean, you can always reorder them. But I want to start with the first one, the idea of focusing on what is needed in the now. The idea of that was just kind of what I was even dealing with even before I left, and I was looking forward to coming here. But a lot of people were challenging me to focus on what is in the now. Whether that was finishing school, whether that was, doing my job well or whatever. And it's the idea of, it's very easy to look ahead or try to start something new. But the key is to look at what is needed in the now and where God has you in the now. I know that's very true in my life. Like I said, it's really hard sometimes when you are really excited about something, or you have this big dream, this big goal. For me, it's the Bowden experience. It's so easy to look in the future and hope and wish for these certain things. But at the end of the day, I need to look at the now and like, what is God having me doing now? What does God have me doing now? That's the correct phrase. And I'm realizing that it's not focusing solely on the Bound experience, on the podcast, and on that brand. It's, yes, still doing it, but focusing on what I need to do. And that's making quality videos for life, and that is getting ready for sports and camp and stuff like that. So I wanted to start with this one because I feel like that's just such a big misnomer. I think that sometimes we get so excited, and I know that was me. I tend to get excited and stuff like that. So I would say there's three ways, actually four inside, well, more or less three. I can't make my mind up, inside of this that I think really can help you understand what I mean by this. And so I think the first one is the local church. And I think it's the big one. And not necessarily just your church, but specifically focusing on the church. And what are the needs in your church? What is there a need of? I think it's very easy when you don't see a need that fits what you want to do. It's very easy just to throw it off to the side. I know I can be that way sometimes. Like I look at it and I'm like, okay, I really am not good at this, or I don't really want to do this. It's very easy to say, well, I don't need to worry about this. I'm going to, I'll just move on to the next thing, or I'll just wait. I mean, in some cases, maybe, but in reality, God calls us to serve the church. And sometimes we have to make sacrifices that we think are sacrifices in order to serve God. I know like here, like, let's be honest, everyone that knows me probably knows that I really probably didn't want to be out doing, outside work for 2 months, but that's what God wanted me to do. And I had to understand that. I had to say, okay, Lord, I get it. You want me to do this now, to help the local church, or in my sense, the ministry. And so that's what I think is a key. I think if you look at your ministry, or in most of your cases at your church, and say, well, there needs to be someone in the nursery. I'm not quite comfortable. I don't know if I'll be great, but at least maybe I can volunteer and try to help out in some way, maybe doing check-in or whatever. Or if it comes to sound stuff and you're not great at it, but you're like, I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to help out in any way possible. You never know what that could mean to, a pastor, to the nursery, to know that, oh, wait, there's someone here that's one less thing we have to think about. And so I know that's something that I've really been trying to work on, is like being okay with having, what I think goes is not really what I should be doing, and focusing on that in a different sense. And so as you go to church, and especially as many churches are getting back together, is look at the need. What is the need that your church, that you're trying to focus on, in your church, and is there a way to help? And again, I'm not saying that you can't try to find something that is in your niche, or that you're really good at. I think that's awesome. If there's an opportunity for you, that's great. But I think we need to look at it from, okay, what is the need now? If you're really good, I'm going to use me as an example. If I know I'm really good, or I'm pretty good at a certain aspect of life, for me, it's video editing. But I know that my church needs me to do something else, or I know the ministry needs me to do something else more. Are you willing to say, okay, I'm going to hold that to the side. I'll come back to it. I'll still offer my services, but let me try to help in somewhere else. And in many cases, they'll realize like, oh, this person's talented in this area. We need to pull you, and we need to use you where you're needed. And many times that happens. I know that's happened to me here, is like, I've been pulled different ways because they see the need in different areas. So the local church, that's what I would say on focusing the now. I think a second one is can be part of the local church, but I think also it's your local community. In what ways can you have a mission mind in your local community? Maybe it's raking that elderly lady's yard next door, or helping that elderly couple, carry their groceries in, or maybe it's just playing with the local kids down the street, or maybe it's just having coffee or tea with neighbors and sharing the love of Christ. I'm not saying that it's going to be easy. I think many times it's going to be hard to initiate that, but when you do, you're finding the need that is now and sharing the gospel. Of course, not every conversation is going to lead you to share the gospel, but the way you act and the way you live is going to share the gospel. If you're not willing to do that, then in reality, we're not willing to be what God calls us to be, and that is walking hands and feet and being servants of Christ. And so I think local community covers so many different things. It could be helping local businesses or, helping the local park, clean up the local park. But when people see that you're willing to help in those needs that maybe that doesn't fit you at all, or maybe you've never helped out before, but you're like, okay, I need to figure that out now. I think that that's a big key, and that's part of the mission mind. And again, like I said here, I wasn't planning to be out in the woods, chopping down trees and all that, but it was where we needed as a community of believers to focus our time on. And so that's a really big key, I think, for anything. So that's like the second area. Ooh, the yawns are coming back. I'm sorry. The yawns are really becoming the part of the show. I don't have time to do it in the morning anymore, so it's more at night. Anyways, that's besides the point. Then the third kind of category underneath, focusing on what is needed in the now is the idea of your own family. And I know you might be thinking, Ben, what does this have to do with me? And I think the key of this is that when you focus on your own family and you say, what is the need in my family? Is it for me to be a better listener? Is it for me to be a better friend to cousins? Or is it me to be a better example of kindness to my family? Whatever it is, we need to have that mentality of, I want to have that mission mind. I want to be able to share the gospel. I know for me, part of my family is not Christian, and some of it is. But I should have the same mindset and walking with Christ, because even those that are saved, they still might be struggling with certain things. And for you to be an encouragement can go a long way. So focusing on so to wrap that up, focusing on what the need is in the now, it's so much more than just like, okay, what is needed now? It's how do you go about it? How do you live out your faith and combining all of that to focus on that mission mind of where you are. And again, it goes to the idea, like, you don't have to travel around the world like I am in order to do these things. If that's where God calls you, then awesome. But, many times God just wants you to be this way, where you are. And so that moves to number two. And this one's kind of interesting because I know some of you might have been confused when I said this earlier, but the second way is preparing the soil for whoever comes next. And what I mean by this is actually, this is sort of a quote that, it's not really a quote, but it's a part of a phrase that I had a professor talk to me about in college. And he talked about preparing our land, preparing our soil for maybe whoever comes next, and maybe not ourselves. The idea of maybe we're here just to plant the seeds to these families, to your friends, to your family, to your coworkers, or wherever God calls you. Because change doesn't always happen in the now. It can be years or months or years ahead. And so if we're able to prepare the soil and to hopefully encourage and plant maybe some seeds, it allows the time to grow and for questions to be asked and for understanding to happen. And maybe you are the one to encourage them and to mentor them and walk alongside that person. But many times it's whoever comes next. It's the same in the local church. It's, laying a foundation when no one else sees, that maybe when that visitor comes in and they see maybe how great how efficient the nursery is working, or how great the sound system working. It asks them questions of like, oh, this church is really good. And I'm not saying that's the key part of what it means to be a Christian, but it gets them asking questions. It gets them interested in what you do. And that opens up conversations towards Christ. And so I think that's a big thing, preparing, the soil is not necessarily, actually excavating soil, obviously, but it's the idea of, it's the concept of impacting people and impacting communities to try to ask more questions or to understand God more. And that obviously leads to those conversations, maybe not by you, but maybe by somebody else. And I think that's a big thing that, again, it could go number one, number two, whatever way, it doesn't matter. But it's definitely a big way that you can focus on being mission minded where you are by preparing, young people. And I hear that story all the time here, actually. You hear a young person that gets saved and they're like, yeah, I've been coming to this camp for, 6, 7 years. And every time I hear the gospel and these people have been a part of my life. And now I really was like, I'm ready to accept Christ as my savior. And again, all those people probably, maybe some of them were here, some of them were not, but it's the idea that they were continually sharing the gospel with them, but they're continually just being kind and showing Christ's love to these young people. And we can do the same thing wherever we are, in this world. And so, preparing the soil for whoever comes next is a very practical way, but I think a very important way. And then the final one that I want to talk about is being willing to go or to stay. And again, this obviously could probably go number one because trying to figure out what God wants to do in your life. But this one is huge because for me, obviously I didn't know that I was going to come here. Really, even up to that trip last year, I was still thinking, I'm just going to come back after the mission trip, do my student teaching, and then, get a job or get subbing jobs, and then go with life. But God will open those doors, and you have to listen to God. You have to understand God and what He's trying to do in your life. And that it's a lot of prayer. It's a lot of, counsel. And I think being willing to stay or go is not on emotion. I know that was a big thing before I came here and before I decided to become a missionary here. Was I wanted to know, is this just on my emotion or is this what God wanted? And it was a lot of prayer. It was a lot of counseling. And, at first I kind of thought maybe it's just emotion, but obviously God was opening doors, people to talk to, encouraging me, and really realized that this is where God wanted me. And so it's a hard thing to understand. I think that's why I encourage you on this one, especially is to get that advice, get those pieces of advice from family, from pastors, from people. And if you're willing to just listen to God and you're willing to just step back and not put your emotion into it and not trying to figure it out yourself, it becomes very clear. And it's hard to describe that until you are in those kind of situations. And I know for me that's been a big part of it. And I would say with this one, if you don't understand, or you are like, Ben, I kind of want to go overseas and I want to serve as a missionary, or I don't really know if I should go or stay, I am always open to talk. I always put my Facebook page and my Instagram down there. Feel free to message me. I am more than happy to talk with you, to encourage you to hear what you're feeling and to hopefully find what God wants in your life. And again, maybe it's not me, but I can at least give you some advice and hopefully help you with that. And so I think that's a big thing about being willing to go or stay. And it relates to being mission minded, because when you're mission minded and you focus on where do I go or do I stay? When you're mission minded and you're already living that out, it becomes very, very prevalent in your life. And again, that's why I say, when you are praying about it and when you just let God take care of it, and when you're mission minded, it's very easy to kind of see what God wants. And sometimes it's not, but I know for me that was a big thing. Was once I let go and I kind of was focused on being mission minded where I am, it was very easy. And so, it's kind of interesting because these are three ways that I know have come across my mind many times. And for some of my friends, this is something that we talk about quite frequently. But I'm not saying these are the only ways. There's obviously more ways. Actually, I had a list of 5, but I cut it down to 3. But I think the ultimate thing is we need to be mission minded every day. Whether at work, whether at school, whether at church. Just because you're at church doesn't mean you shut off being mission minded. Just because you're at work doesn't mean you amplify it. Just because with your family you kind of numb it. No, you should be the same mission minded everywhere you go. When you're in church, being that mission minded person of just volunteering when they need people, to just step outside of your comfort zone. I know I say that a lot, but stepping outside of your comfort zone, that's been the best thing that ever happened to me. Was going, all right, Lord, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm gonna take that step of faith and and hopefully, you will lead me from there, which I know he always will. And so, I think being mission-minded is one of the most important things you can do as a Christian. We are called to share the gospel with every person we come, of this world, and even the people we come in contact with. And I know, I'm going to be honest with you all, as I always try to be, I struggle with that. There are many times where I'm like, God, I really don't feel like sharing the gospel today. I really just having a bum day. I don't know if I can be all happy and joyful. And I had to continually remind myself that, God didn't have to save me, but God gave that free gift. And I'd be so selfish to keep it for myself and to not share that amazing news with other people. And so that's why I say that, because you never know at work, at school, at church, that you might be talking to that might be struggling with their faith, or maybe not a Christian. And by just you taking the time to talk with them has encouraged them, has pricked their heart with questions. And maybe that's the one conversation they needed. So again, being mission-minded where you are is simple if you just find the ways that I've talked about, and finding those opportunities. Focus on what is needed now. Let's try to do that this week. What is needed now in your life? Is it at your church? Is it at your community? Is it in your own family? How can you live that mission-mindedness, I think that's a word, throughout your life, through these different areas? In seconds, prepare that soil for whoever comes next. Maybe you're not the person for them to come and ask about different things, but maybe you're the one that helps them understand something, or puts that seed in their heart, and other people come along and help grow it. Or maybe it's just trying to figure out, am I here? Am I supposed to stay here, or am I supposed to go? But being mission-minded and having that mission-mindedness doesn't mean you have to be overseas to have that same mindset. Like I said at the beginning, I traveled 5,000 miles, but you don't have to travel 5,000 miles at all. You can do it right there in your living room. You can do it on social media. You can do it through your church, through your community, through your family. As we all can tell, this world right now needs Jesus without a shadow of a doubt. Let us be that light. Let us be those people that are mission-minded, that are willing to say, God, I'm open arms. I'm willing to go. Because when we're willing to go, God will say, you know what? This is where I want you. Or, hey, I want you there. Or, hey, I want you to do this. And it's so sweet and so special in your own life when you can feel that, and when you can go, God, thank you. And I tell people all the time, God is still opening my eyes here, and I'm every day having to go, okay, I need to have a mission-minded self. I need to focus on these things, focus on the now. But listen to God. Be willing to stay where you are, be willing to go. Prepare that soil for whoever comes next, or maybe just for whoever is right around that corner. And focus on what is needed in the now. Focus on what is needed in the now in your church, in your community, and in your own family. So once again, let us be mission-minded people and share the gospel everywhere we go, through our works and through our words. So once again, I want to say so much. Thank you for tuning in today. I hope it's been an encouragement to you. It's been on my heart, and I wanted to share it with you all. And hopefully you got a little encouragement from this. And so once again, if you've loved this episode of the podcast, if you're on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts, go ahead and favorite the podcast. It allows you to not have to always look at Facebook whenever a new podcast episode comes out, because it already comes out Tuesday, Thursday. You should know that. But even if you don't, if you favorite it, it will pop up and you'll be able to see when the next one comes out. And if you're on YouTube, go ahead and click that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button, and then hit that notification bell. And that's just going to keep you in the loop on everything. Every video I come out, short films, everything like that. So once again, I want to remind you that we serve an amazing God, and our God is faithful, and we can trust him. And as always, we'll talk next time.